Hiya, pal. Sorry, I mean, hee, pal. So I saw Michael last weekend. Hey, Michael. And Phoebe. There you go! Classic. I went into the movie with one expectation, and one expectation only. It's gonna have Michael Jackson music. Thus, Michael met my expectations. Exceeded them, even. It was a lot of Michael Jackson. And I love Michael Jackson's music. I was insanely young when I first watched the Thriller music video. I'm pretty sure that it was a part of this DVD collection that we had, Michael Jackson #1s, which basically had all the music videos you've definitely already seen. Though I've never really been a Michael Jackson guy or really knew all that much about him, I happened to pick up on the general consensus about him and his legacy by existing in this world. But I wanted to know more about him before I went and saw Michael, because this would be unlike any other musical biopic. We haven't really seen one yet where the main character is as controversial or divisive as Michael Jackson. And this one has Michael Jackson. We've certainly seen cinematic deep dives into the flaws of famous musicians, but those flaws can typically be categorized as only self-destructive ones. Whereas with Michael Jackson, I assume that the film had the responsibility of representing the flaws of its protagonist that directly and negatively influenced others. This is all I knew about Michael Jackson before looking into anything about him. He was a famous guy. He made good music. He danced good too. He wore cool clothes. He made that thing I like. He was weird. And he was either a pedophile or a victim of being labeled as one. So I needed to learn the truth. But not really for those first 6 points. They're not disputable. No, my research on Michael Jackson was really just about the accusations of child molestation made against him starting in the 90s and following him until his death in 2009. And then never really stopped going. Which is why half my YouTube feed now is videos like, The Real Truth Behind Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, villain or victim? I'm not gonna spend at least 20 minutes going over every detail of those accusations because an abundance of those videos already exist. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. And you probably know the chase anyway.
Chase McCain.
Michael Jackson was a really weird guy who got way too close with some kids to fill the void carved out of him in his very stressful and traumatic childhood. Personally, I do believe that Michael Jackson wanted to do right by these kids and bring light into their lives, but I don't think a reasonable argument can be made that his lack of a childhood and lifetime of essentially complete social isolation due to his fame were not the primary root of his conceptualization and execution of the Neverland Ranch. Did he sexually molest children? Well, there's not enough proof for either side of the argument, and both sides are riddled with external motivations that end up muddying the waters. After looking into all of this, and by no means am I a Michael Jackson expert now, I came to my own personal conclusion that Michael Jackson got way too close with kids, and regardless of his intentions, these children got put into really gross, scary, and confusing situations that kids should not go through. In a way, Michael having those kids at the Neverland Ranch just ended up creating a situation where they could have some of the same traumas that ruined his childhood. They were isolated from the real world, and they were brought into the public eye and scrutinized at a very young age. That's not really what I'm here to talk about today, though, because I'm here to talk about the Michael movie, which doesn't touch on the allegations. They legally weren't allowed to because it would break a non-disclosure agreement. So I'm going to cut to the chase again.
There she is. Lego City.
Michael is a very good biopic about Michael Jackson. Heck, it's one of the best biopics I've seen so far. There's a few aspects, and I'm talking giant aspects of this film that really brought down its quality. You remember Bohemian Rhapsody? As in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody? And how it ended with a 20-minute uninterrupted recreation of Queen's concert at Live Aid in 1985? Yeah, the same people made Michael. And I have this feeling, this itch, that the producers saw the reaction to that Live Aid reenactment and said, hey, that was the only thing that people universally liked about the movie, but what if we did that multiple times? And thus, Michael was born. Okay, Michael's concert scenes weren't 20 minutes long, but they definitely surpassed that with the combined runtime of all of them. I sat through the entire concert performances of Billie Jean, Bad, and these being back-to-back in the same scene, Working Day and Night, and Human Nature. Those songs by themselves are over 18 minutes long. But you know how concert performances are. They milk. These concert recreations are awesome, extremely well shot and performed, and very high energy. At the same time, they are, at minimum, a 3-minute long experience of, wow, look at him go! And not that it gets old necessarily, it continues to be impressive, but it doesn't comfortably belong in a movie this way. Because these recreations aren't scenes. Things don't really happen in them. I don't learn or see more about Michael Jackson other than what it looked like when he performed at Wembley Stadium. If I wanted to see that, I would look it up and watch it. Here, in the movie, all it does is interrupt the plot and make you watch an audience watch Michael Jackson. It's not like Rocket Man, where the songs happen to kind of parallel what was going on in the scene. I'm still standing. Michael can't do that because, above all else, it's trying to be a one-to-one depiction of events. And a big reason people hate musicals is because the plot has to get put on hold for characters to break out into song. But in musicals, those songs have a part in the narrative. These concert recreations in Michael have nothing to do with the narrative. They're just filling time with hee-hees and extras losing their minds. It's disappointing. I was actually sitting there for most of the movie thinking, wow, they actually made a good biopic about Michael Jackson. Some of it follows overdone biopic tropes, but there's also a lot of brave creative decisions here, mainly in the narrative focus. Michael could have been about so many things all in one movie, but it decided to always loop back into a focus on one, Michael's relationship with his father, or more accurately, his father's relationship with him, and two, Michael's inability to have normal, healthy social relationships with people as a result of his fame and childhood trauma. Both of these drive everything that happens in the movie, but a crazy amount of time is taken away from further exploring and developing those aspects of the story and given to these lengthy concert reenactments, which again, are very, very, very well done. They just don't quite fit into what the rest of the film is trying to be and accomplish. What sucks the most about this is that the writers knew how to incorporate memorable performances from Michael Jackson's career in a way that ties in with the narrative. I know this because scenes like that exist in the movie. Instead of just watching Jafar Jackson copy the Beat It music video, we watch as Michael choreographs and brainstorms ideas for it in front of an audience of Crips and Bloods who inspired him to make the whole thing as a message to end gang violence. They could have just showed me a recreation of Thriller, but they gave us a look into Michael Jackson's behavior on the set of his short films. He came up with ideas, had a relationship to the dancers and crew where creativity was flexible. Things didn't have to be a certain way just because it was said before. And I loved all the scenes of Michael in the studio, especially that of him as a 12-year-old recording for Motown for the first time. We got so much in that scene, so much subtext underneath everything happening. The industry visibly and personally telling Michael, again, a 12-year-old child, not to dance at the mic. Just stand there and sing. His father wanting to stop the take and have him do it again while the producers are like, shut up, he's fantastic, let us do our jobs. There, we got to hear I Want You Back and get a narrative scene at the same time. So why did we have these long, unmotivated blank spaces of concert recreations? It worked in Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, well, there were a few reasons for that. One, because the rest of the movie sucked. And two, because the Live Aid performance was worked in narratively as a big uplifting powerball of energy for the band, for Freddie Mercury after his AIDS diagnosis, and for the 2 billion people who watched it. And it had 4 of their top songs over those 20 minutes. In Michael, these concert scenes don't have that same weight. And the movie doesn't end with a bang, it ends with an, hey, I get it. Yeah, this guy's Michael Jackson. The final scene in Michael is another uninterrupted, fully realized replica of a concert. This one showcasing a performance of Bad from Michael's Bad World Tour in 1988. And it's not bad. But it's also not good. What ends up happening with the scene is the movie falls flat on its face. There's no real reason for it to be there other than to fill space and to represent another big venue from Michael Jackson's history. And it comes right after what should have been an amazing ending to the film, the Jackson 5's 1984 Victory Tour. We get 2 songs from that, a lot of Michael Jackson dances and interactions with audiences. He's there performing with his brothers for the last time, and they weren't super important to the narrative, but they functioned to support the larger issue here. Michael plans to tell his father face-to-face that he's only going to do solo work from then on, while his father advertises backstage that the tour would go from national to international. The movie made it a point early on that Michael had difficulty looking his father in the eye or really interacting with him on any level. This sets up the confrontation by Michael as a big deal for the main story. Now, he doesn't end up doing this as directly as he planned, opting to tell the audience on stage that this would be the final tour for the complete Jackson 5. His father gets the news that way, and it still produces the big character arc conclusion, the moment of Michael's triumph over his father's control. The Jackson Five all end their set smiling and waving to the audience as Michael leaves his brothers to themselves on stage and doesn't even interact with his father behind the curtain. That is where the movie should have ended. Yeah, you would need a little scene or just a shot after all of that to be like, he did it. And the rest is history. Instead, Michael followed up that giant, energetic, narrative-driven concert scene with a long-winded, recreated performance of Bad, in which nothing really happens. It cuts to like a million different shots of extras fainting and having to be carried out one by one, and these just look and feel weird. First off, these shots of the extras are not selling it. I'm not blaming the extras, of course. This whole scene felt like they spent a long time filming it, and because of how hard they worked on it, they included every good shot that they could. It just happened to be that 10 of those good shots were extras fainting. But more importantly, we already know people love Michael Jackson. I mean, that's why I'm watching a movie about him advertised with just his first name, one of the most common names out there, but we associate it with him because of his legendary status. This is the end of the film. I would feel a lot better about it if it was like the end credits or something, but no, this is the last thing you're given in Michael. It simply doesn't work and left me feeling like I'm supposed to react like a sheep and say, bah! It bruised my whole perception of the film, which then proceeded to punch me directly into the bruise. The fuck? Yeah, they dropped that bomb on you right when the movie ends. You know what's funny about it? They didn't even decide whether or not they were going to have a sequel when they put that in the film. They released it like that without knowing that it would actually lead to something. Which is like, fine, I guess. But why include it then? It's just such a weird thing to do, a little just in case at the end. And I'm sitting there thinking, is this supposed to make the audience beg for it? It's officially greenlit now because of how great their opening weekend was, but still, I'm pissed about it. Because now we know that this movie wasn't designed as a full story or as one with a concrete sequel in mind. It was made with the opportunity to make more money in mind. The producer said, okay, if we reach this number, we'll make a second one. Not, I hope we can finish the story we told half of. This is especially obvious when you consider that the original version of this movie was supposed to cover the Neverland investigations but couldn't because it broke a contract that was made between the Jackson estate and one of Michael's early accusers. So what's left for Michael to hee-hee-hoo-hoo to legally talk about while making a compelling story? I understand that there's a ton more to Michael Jackson's career after the events of this movie that don't have anything to do with the accusations and controversies. But Lionsgate needs to understand that everyone's expecting them to address it. They should address it, but they can't. Which, to me, makes the concept of the sequel stupid. I could get behind Michael not touching on these things because it doesn't cover that time of his life. It's a biopic about his struggles with fame and becoming more and more independent from his overbearing and violent father. Not about what he may or may not have done after events relevant to that narrative. I can understand that movie. What I can't understand is a sequel to that movie that has to ultimately be about all of Michael's physical changes, his later work, and his relationship to the media without acknowledging that era's main antagonist from his perspective as a protagonist. The media's coverage of and law enforcement's investigations into his alleged sexual abuse of children at Neverland Ranch. Michael, too, can't just be about his career or him being a victim to the media's criticisms, because that would ignore all of the underlying motivations behind those things. If we go past 1993, the film no longer has a foundation to argue, we don't need to talk about it. I can only imagine the sequel to be one thing: a tear-jerking moneymaker for those undyingly in support of Michael Jackson. Watch him be a victim for 2 hours, interrupted by songs we all know! And I'm not saying he's not a victim. I don't know the full extent of what happened at Neverland. Things might have been extremely exaggerated, causing his massive defamation and scarring his life and legacy. But I do know that he deserved to be investigated because people did come out and make these accusations, and he was way too comfortable with children. Sharing beds, being half naked with them. He had a sensor in the hallway to his bedroom so we knew when people were approaching. Police found non-sexual art pieces of nude children in his home. I'm not saying he needed to be investigated the way he did, but he did deserve to be investigated. So regardless of if he did what he was accused of, The Neverland situation is way too important to leave out of the sequel. And by the looks of it, that story can't legally be told. So why make a sequel?
It'll make a lot of money.
Oh, right. That. Michael, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. It had a good thing going and dropped the ball right when they needed the ball most.
I don't think people
Please
say
get
that.
out of my room. As biopics go, Michael is still in the upper echelon, especially for musical biopics. Its main narrative was compelling despite literally having a son of a coal miner turned superstar logline. In this one, the coal miner dad made his son turn into a superstar. Big twist, huh? Not all of the characters felt fleshed out, but I felt that added to the theme of Michael's social isolation. We kind of saw these people as surface level as he did, whether that was an intentional choice or not in production. I mean, I doubt it, but still. And you know what? It was kind of a fun, lighthearted movie for most of it. There was definitely a lot of dramatic scenes, but the character analysis didn't overpower the celebration of Michael Jackson's life and music. It actually contributed to it a lot of the time. Most biopics struggle to achieve any of that. Rocketman was like watching the Moulin Rouge musical because every time there was something really important and dramatic happening, he'd start going, "So goodbye the yellow brick road." Bohemian Rhapsody was essentially that Family Guy Star Wars Episode 6 nodding scene. Wait, do that again. And Elvis was, I don't know, I didn't see it. But being a better than average biopic isn't that big of a compliment. That's like saying, "This is the best peanut butter sandwich I've ever had!" It tastes like peanut butter. And even though this might be a great PB sandwich, the crust is a little moldy, and you didn't know there was going to be mold until you got to it. Does that make sense? Michael's pure entertaining energy and solid storyline were ultimately ruined by the film's inability to understand that it already gave you those two things. Because if it recognized that, it wouldn't have thought to cram insanely long concert reenactments into it or end the whole thing with what essentially screamed, "Did you know that people love Michael Jackson and that he made that song, you know, and that he was good at performing?" And most importantly, the film wouldn't need another film. It did what it set out to do. Celebrate Michael Jackson's life and career while telling a compelling story that educates audiences on who he really was. A sequel would lose both of those qualities by omitting, because they legally have to, any discussion on the most prevalent events that influenced his life and career. As a result, we're really just watching what the Jackson estate is willing and able to portray about Michael Jackson. That's not really a film anymore. That's just sad propaganda. That's like a biopic about me that didn't even talk about that one time in 8th grade that I poked someone's ankle with a fully heated hot glue gun for no reason. FBI, put your hands behind your head and get on the ground. Ah, right. I forgot about the non-disclosure agreement.